Hi, my name is Vidha Saumya. I'm a visual artist and poet. Today I'm joining you from Helsinki to talk to you about NIIN. I am the co-founder and the co-editor of NIIN Magazine that we founded together with Elham Rahmati in 2021. In this presentation, we will take you through just talking about the magazine, why we decided to start it, what our plans for the next 2 years are. And towards the end, we are also very happy to welcome our guests from Mumbai, Mavelinadu Collective, and Ajinkya Dekhane and Shrujana Niranjani Shridhar are joining us from Mumbai to talk about the collective, the work that they're doing with respect to their publishing practices, as well as what their hopes and dreams are for a publication project like that. So, welcome to this presentation, and over to you, Elham.
Hi, I'm Elham Rahmati, visual artist and curator and co-founder and co-editor of NIIN. And as Vidha said, I'll give you a short introduction to the magazine together with Vidha. So NIIN Magazine is an independent online monthly magazine at the cusp of art, criticality, and love, co-founded and co-edited by myself and Vidha. NIIN absorbs the disruptive sparks emerging from the intersectional art and culture environs that counter the status quo, aspiring to develop them as springboards for new ways of thinking and working towards hope, liberation, and building internationalist, feminist, and anti-imperialist solidarities. The magazine functions as a platform for commissioning writers and art workers to express their thoughts in the form of essays, reviews, interviews, art, poetry, short fiction, podcasts, and playlists. The idea of NIIN started with wanting to have a dedicated space where what people do in the arts in Finland can be documented and promoted in a serialized manner. When we started talking about it, we realized there were common experiences and desires that we shared through the experience of working as independent artists and curators, as gallery coordinators, exhibiting at museums and galleries in Finland, co-founding a cultural center, curating and producing a film school, editing publications, writing articles. All of that. Through these experiences, we have observed a few things. First, it was about how art institutions and cultural projects often pigeonhole minority groups to express their thoughts and ideas only when it comes to matters related to their minority status. It is thoroughly frustrating to feel that individuals belonging to marginalized communities have nothing notable to offer beyond their trauma and struggles. In that regard, we see NIIN as a space where members of marginalized communities can feel free to share their insights on whatever they find urgent, and see it as a space where they can perform any aspect of their multifaceted identities as they choose. Vidha, do you want to continue?
Second, we noticed that how so many artists hold exhibitions across Finland each month, as well as internationally, for which they've dedicated several months of labor and funds. Although this preparation successfully ends with an opening evening or where people join to see the artist's work, we drink, socialize, so on and so forth, but it is often followed by a few dull weeks of hoping for more visitors and also figuring out ways to get the word out about their work. Once an exhibition closes, the artists often ask themselves, for whom was this work done? Did it have any impact? Did visitors take the time to understand the work? Very few exhibitions and events get properly reviewed in the mainstream media. And the big problem is that often the same venues and the same artists get continued exposure. To be exact, even those artists at best have reports of their exhibition or the press releases that are published. Rarely they receive any kind of a critical engagement with their work. The other issue is that most exhibition spaces, both artist-run galleries and experimental spaces, don't have the time or the resources to promote their artists' work through formal media channels. As a result, most artists remain less known to the art scene, as no news about their work has the proper channels to reach a larger audience. This is because artists don't have vast networks or lack marketing and promotion know-how. After all, these skills are not taught in art education institutions. We share all this only to say that why Elham and I feel that NIIN is a meaningful contribution to the art scene. From March 2021, when we founded and started with the first issue of the magazine, until now, we have published 15 issues, 15 online issues. And in that time and in those several issues, we have worked and collaborated with more than 250 artists, writers, and curators. Having internationalism as a significant scope of our work, apart from Finland-based contributors, we have reached out to many international contributors, particularly those based in or from the global south. Doing so, bringing perspectives that we have found almost entirely absent from the art and culture scene in Finland, as internationalism for Finnish art institutions translates mainly to working with art workers from the US or from the UK. More than giving voice to something that we did not have before, we've made an effort to open a space for a way of living art in the contemporary world. NIIN is not a publication of victims or for victims or a benevolent patronizing gesture of making something weak and powerless visible. What we have in mind is that we want the magazine to be triumphant and realistic and speak of the world as we know and feel it. We want NIIN to be a critical space for discourse and to provoke difficult conversations that develop over time. To ask questions that can help the artistic community grow and look at their practice from more challenging perspectives. Elham, do you want to continue?
Yes, now we just want to give a short overview of what we're planning for the next 2 years. And for that, we have 3 notions in mind. First one is internationalism in artistic practices, which is inspired by Progressive International's Art of Internationalism Manifesto, which has these particular strands. First one is reformulating international ambitions in the arts, then making art communal, exploring pedagogies of internationalist art and culture, making an effort to ally progressive communal institutions, abolishing cultural racism, hatred, and fascism, defending the rights of cultural workers, and lastly, sustain social movements in the art. The second notion is popularizing research in the arts, and we thought about this because we think Finland is one of the few countries that offers artistic research in doctoral programs in art universities, and art and cultural scenes are incomplete without researchers, theorists, and academics who paved the way for many institutional and discursive constructions. Regular dialogues between researchers and policymakers affect arts development, social inclusion, and equity, and bring systemic societal changes. Collaborating with local and international doctoral researchers, we present a new section of NIIN called Research Papers, which is geared to revitalize the potential of such conversation between the researchers and the policymakers, as well as the general public. And then the last notion we would like to emphasize on in the next 2 years is fostering intergenerational dialogue, which creates a space where artists, social lives, political beliefs, and creative practices can intersect and convene possibilities of collaboration, knowledge, and engagement in a scene that is often divided by presumptions, stereotypes, ethnocultural origins, and social hierarchies. Every year, hundreds of students and independent practitioners commence artistic practice. They, more often than not, are faced with challenging work scenarios, struggling to find practical and emotional support. On the other hand, the capitalist generative culture of the arts is always interested in the new. Many mid-career and older artists fail to find spaces and dialogue and are made to feel irrelevant despite an ongoing and constantly developing practice. Combining art criticism, cultural commentary, research, and personal narrative in the magazine, we commission conversations between generations. In doing so, we highlight a range of diverse lives and experiences of individuals that often remain uncommunicated. Bridging this wide communication gap between generations creates a space for resistance and repair. Vidha, would you like to now continue our guest?
Hi. We are very happy to welcome Mavelinadu Collective to the editorial tables. Mavelinadu is an anti-caste publication and community space by and for marginalized castes and indigenous people. Ajinkya, Dekhane, and Shrujana, Niranjani, Shridhar from the collective have joined us from Mumbai to introduce us to their publishing practice and how the collective seeks to facilitate researchers, writers, and artists to work freely and independently to reframe, reclaim, and de-Brahmanize their histories and highlight their lived experiences. The collective says that they reject the literary and intellectual tradition of the so-called upper castes in India and Indian diaspora that is not only exclusionary, but has worked to justify the reproduction of the epistemic, structural, and physical violence they enact on marginalized communities every day. Mavelinadu's goal is to focus on oral traditions, folklore, and personal narratives of their past and world building for an inclusive future, such as the story of Mavelinadu. So after this presentation, you will listen to Ajinkya and Shrujana talk about Mavelinadu. So we hope that you enjoy the presentation and seek interest in both NIIN and Mavelinadu. We also have in the space our print magazine, so please make sure that you take the time to browse through the magazine. NIIN is an online website, so all the issues that we have published so far are also available online. We are very excited to also embark on the publishing of the second print issue this year, so we will be soon starting with that process. But more than anything, we want to thank the showroom and Frame Contemporary Art Finland for inviting us to the editorial tables to participate alongside other publishing practices. And we really wish we could have been there in person, but nevertheless, we are there with our magazine. So please do take the time and browse through the magazine, give us your feedback, and we look forward to connecting with you in other ways. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Ajinkya. I'm an architect, I'm an artist, and an illustrator. I'm a co-founder at Mavelinadu.
Hi, I'm Shrujana. I'm an artist and an illustrator based in Bombay, and I'm also a co-founder of Mavelinadu Collective.
So, the journey of Mavelinadu began in the late of the lockdown phase when basically me and Sanjana were having some conversations um, about starting a sort of research journal or some sort of a collective, while we were also discussing these concepts about the readings that we were taking. One of the readings had introduced us to this idea of Mavelinadu, which is basically the land of Maveli, and it sort of gave me an idea of how I have grown up with the stories of Bali Raja and the stories about the King Bali in Maharashtra, while at the same time Sanjana was bringing in the stories about Maveli and the myth of Mavelinadu in Kerala, and this gave us an idea of a sort of concept or an idea of starting this collective based on the idea of the Mavelinadu or Bali Raja. If we look at the myth says that the the king Bali, who was the just ruler, who had eradicated caste, so there was no caste in his kingdom, there were no differences, and this king was then killed by one of the avatars of Vishnu, who was Vamana, and throughout throughout the working class sector of Maharashtra, or these are stories that I've grown up listening to, keep recalling the re-emergence of Bali in some sort, a calling back to the King Bali, which is what gives us the slogan called Ida Pida Taro Bali Charachayo. It basically means let all the stores go away and the kingdom of Bali return back, which is the kingdom of Bali, which is Bali Raja, which also translates to Mavelinadu. So this began our journey into thinking about how would we go about this, and at the same time we were also gaining some leads towards funding for a project like this. So instead of going for a traditional publishing house which takes book projects and publishes books, we thought that we'll begin this journey with a more of a sort of an inclusive way of getting the community to pitch their ideas to us, and be while we were also gaining some leads on funding, we had this idea that we will start giving grants to writers, artists, and also a long research grant, which gave us the idea of debrahmanizing gender. At the same time, we had met Shrujana, and three of us shared the same views and the same objective for this collective. And then Shrujana.
Yeah. So then, from there, like when I met them, and and when they talked about Mavelinadu, just like Ajinkya, the whole concept of Bali Raja really felt like I was already, since I'm also from Maharashtra, the whole story of Bali Raja is familiar to me and familiar to me as well. So it was an immediate connection for me as well, and it sort of filled me with hope. It came at a time when this came at a time when like I wasn't seeing much hope in terms of how we go about like taking certain parts of this cultural movement forward, which is what we are interested in, building culture, building knowledge. So like even the whole thought of thinking of basing this entire thing in a utopia, in like a kingdom that is set in this much uh, joy and democracy, it came at the right time to sort of like to think of like just like during COVID, also with everything that was going on within the country, it came at the right time to think of it in these terms, to sort of not allow establishment to set how we react to things, which is how usually things happen, where an atrocity happens or something happens and then we react to that, but instead setting our terms and how we want to take these things forward,
Exactly.
right? So yeah, so that's when like that really appealed to me as well. And another point is that like we wanted to like after a lot of discussions and conversations, we sort of realized that there is a space in this publication within the subcontinent that we really feel the urgent need to interrupt and disrupt. Like we feel like today caste has become a huge, you know, matter of interest and conversation in the subcontinent. A lot of upper caste people run publication houses or want to publish books. Like recently, an upper caste, like famously caste proud politician wrote a book on caste, and it just has become more and more apparent that we need more publications that are from within the community and are interested in supporting voices within the community and platforming people from within the community. So that is a huge matter of like importance to us.
Yeah. And that's where we found the need to sort of de-Brahmanize our history, because our histories our stories are being written and published by upper caste, especially Brahmin led publication houses. That's what gave us the idea of the word de-Brahmanizing. While we were also reading, we were very influenced by this book by Niranjani Mani called De-Brahmanizing History. We based the first issue of our publication on that and calling it De-Brahmanizing Gender. The idea was to think of the word de-Brahmanize in the same tone as the word decolonize, where in India the talk about colonization starts and ends at the British colonization of India, while the subcontinent has always been a colony of the Brahmins, and the Brahminical structure that was overlaid upon the existing Shramanic traditions, Buddhist traditions, where Baba Sahib very clearly says that the history of India is nothing but a struggle between Buddhism and Brahmanism. That's where the idea of the myth, one of the paths towards Mavelinadu or Baliraja was to first de-Brahmanize this entire chunk of history that we have, and our mode to go towards that was to understand how constructs of such as caste and gender sort of produce and sustain each other. So while understanding how decolonization in India's context would work led us to de-Brahmanizing, and to de-Brahmanize caste, we sort of fell on this idea about how caste and gender sort of produce and sustain each other in India. And the construct of caste seems to be extremely important for the binary construct of gender, while the binary construct of gender is extremely important for the sustenance of caste. Where Baba Sahib writes about endogamy being like one of the core needs for the existence of caste, which and endogamy requires a cis man and a cis woman to have marriage, to produce children. so that the surname of the father can continue to the surname of the kid. Though this is not the by and end of caste, though this is a very important mechanism in which castes survive. So this led us to the idea of uh, to first understand the constructs such as gender and to de-Brahmanize it was a place where we thought we could start.
And we're also interested in sort of creating an archive, or not an actual archive, but like sort of documenting or collecting stories that sort of preserve these or revive these stories, these indigenous or shamanic traditions, or things that have been essentially buried and hidden away by Brahminical society and culture, right? So that is also one of the goals we have, which is to recreate and revive cultures that we have been told to be ashamed of, that we've been forced to abandon in the process of being Brahminized and Sanskritized as a culture. So that is also one thing that is important to us. And once we decided on this theme of de-Brahminizing gender, we got to work on how we were going to go about working on these grants. We came up with categories of research, poetry, fiction, non-fiction, visual art, and illustrated zines. And we, at that point, we didn't have anything. We had to set up a whole website on our own and pretty much learned everything on the go. None of us have any experience running a publication, but within the anti-caste movement, self-publishing and publication is not an alien concept. Like for us, within in India, there are so many anti-caste regional anti-caste publications, and it's not uncommon for us to conceive of people starting their own publications. So with that optimism, we set out to sort of do everything on our own.
See ourselves as a small part of the people who have kept the Ambedkarite movement running for years with these very, very small publication houses with very, very little funding, printing on pulp paper, distributing copies of AOC for as less as 5-10 rupees. We just hope to give our little contribution into this tradition.
And we once we set out to once we had our categories created, we had all the admin stuff looked out, and we're a very small team, 4 or 5 people, 4 or 5 people, right? Currently,
of 4.
But it's been a very small team, and we've sort of divided up roles among ourselves. We've had to overlap roles. We've had to do many different things at a time. But somehow we managed to pull off 2 rounds of giving grants. The first round, we managed to finish all of our grants, and now we started the second round. And we're very proud of how we've managed to actually produce quite a bit of writing and literature in a very short amount of time, where we've been talking to publishers, we've been talking to people, and people always say that you need so many years to finish so many pieces, or you need to have this much time to finish this kind of book. But actually we've managed to accomplish quite a bit in terms of publication in that short period. And now one thing that we're setting out to do is bring this out in print, and now that is going to be a challenge in and on itself, and it's an extremely exciting challenge for us, because even for Ajinkya and me, we're both designers, we're both artists, so for us, even from a production perspective, it's going to be a huge learning curve. We're going to get to explore a lot and learn a lot from this process. So that is exciting to us. And we're also learning, I feel a lot of what we're taught within the movement in terms of like we have made sure that our theory, our politics is on point, and we work hard to make sure that we are learning and growing. But what this has done for us as an experience has also made us extremely serious about production, extremely serious about how to actually develop hard skills, how to actually learn hard skills and learn new like techniques to sort of put out a website, put out a grant, create contracts. Like these are important things that I think we're one of the first in our communities, like within our families, even like first or second generation to learn how to do these things, and we're doing it on our own. So and this is what like fires us up. This is what makes us different, and this is what will keep pushing us to like explore new things. And
so by far we have 21 grantees.
yeah,
We have had around 5 to 6 guest writing pieces within the span of a year, and we hope to take things not slow but also not in a haste where we take up a lot of submissions and just publish them where stuff doesn't get read. It's we wish to provide ample respect and time for all of our grantees, and we treat every little piece of a smallest of a poem to a full size research as something that is very valuable, and we see it as valuable, and we want to present it in with the respect that the work deserves, in as sort of exclusive, in a premium format, in even no matter if it's in the form of in print or online, where me and Shrujana spend a lot of time creating visual images, visual language for each of the piece that comes. This is what we stressed on from the very beginning, to have a strong visual language, and also to sort of create a new visual language to the Ambedkarite artwork, the way it is perceived, the way it is seen, but rather go in create something new in create a new language to what is understood as Ambedkarite art, and sort of it becoming the visual language for the new style of writing that's coming up, the new style of poetry that's coming out of the community. Well, as you can see, there's a lot more English poets who are coming from the community, while there are also a lot of first generation learners who are writing very elaborate, extensive, very well researched papers. So it's something that not just us we are doing for the first time, but it is something that the community, the younger people from the community are doing for the first time. So it's we are learning as we're going ahead with it, and it's just been a very good, exciting journey.
One of the things that I think I personally feel extremely proud of what Mavelinadu has managed to accomplish is most of the what happens is that when you look at publication, or like when you look at, for example, if you're commissioning an illustrator or a writer, people always firstly, if it's an upper caste publication or a publication that belongs to a lot of privilege and establishment, they have a bunch of people on their mind who may be like, sort of popular, and they are always published or they are always called on those particular, and this happens with every marginalized community where certain individuals get tokenized, and then those individuals are called upon each time that there is something to say on that issue. But I think what we have managed to accomplish is really find very young writers, very young creators, people who may be getting published for the first time, you know. And we're very proud that we've managed to hit upon those people who are like writing into us. And we receive so many applications, and it really makes me so proud that we managed to actually attract that energy and attract younger, not just younger, also like lesser known sort of first time publishers, first time writers, and that's really exciting to us because that is what it's about. That is how you create culture. And secondly, one of the things that we intentionally set out to do within the team, between Sanjana, who's an editor for us, and researcher, and Ritik, who also does a lot of editing and research work, Ajinkya, me, all four of us, we have managed to sort of create a ethic while dealing with grantees or while dealing with writers, while dealing with artists, to always be, like Ajinkya said, extremely respectful of them. But that also means not being aware of like certain restrictions that come to us in the contexts that we exist in. For example, mental health is an issue that we need to think about. We cannot, we obviously do not subscribe to any sort of hustle culture. So because it is so capitalist in its nature, and we do want to be the sort of organization that is pushing someone to do creative work that they just cannot do right now just because we have given them some money. We know the realities of existing in the bodies and minds that we do. So we know that we cannot have certain expectations. If somebody is not able to give us something, we cannot hold that against them, because this is, at the end of the day, if it's creative work, if it's research work, you need to be in the right state, not just mentally but also financially, also like physically. Sometimes people have issues, like there are many variables that come while being a creator from certain marginalizations, and we make sure that we take that into account. And we think that that can only happen with publishers and editors and publications that are inherently anti-caste and that come from the community, because only they understand what the real pain is.
Exactly. And I see that as the main difference between any publishing house which is led or owned by an upper caste person.
Yeah.
The difference you will see is that they will only want to publish people who are well known from the community. They will pick one or two people and make them write a book because they are known, and those books will sell, that will bring them money. The agenda there is to create capital out of caste and to create capital out of our people's trauma. Rather, while our goal has always been to platform our people, which is why it doesn't matter if they are published, if they are not published, if they are writing for the first time.
Yeah.
Our goal is to provide platform to our people who are not getting that platform because of this hegemony that upper caste publishers have created amongst themselves.
Yeah. And even the capital that they are getting out of publishing maybe one or two popular people from certain kinds of communities, that capital exists is earned and enjoyed only by the publication. And we're so proud of the people who are even well known and who get published, but it's not like they are getting as much capital from it as the publication in itself will, you know. So we understand that aspect of it as well. And keeping that in mind, we don't just for now, what we've been working on for a year has been a magazine which is themed under dehumanizing gender. But what we want to start doing now is publish poetry books, publish separate research books, publish proper non-fiction, fiction books, and be a full-fledged publication house. We don't want to limit ourselves to just a magazine that comes out once a year. We want to be creating and putting out as much as we can in the most accessible of ways. Even when we one of the things is that even when we tried to do a website and the first time around it didn't really work, we tried to create like a custom website, and then the second time around we tried out a hack and managed that. But even in that, even in limited time, limited like resources, we made sure that website was clean, it was crisp, and it was accessible for everyone. And like even like recently, I remember there was a call we had with someone who was a research, who had applied for research, and they were like, one of the reasons I felt excited to apply to Mavelinadu is that the website looked really professional and like it looked good or something.
Good.
Yeah. So that is important to us. It's important that things are crisp, because we are extremely intentional with everything we put out and extremely deliberate about it, because we think that everyone who's publishing with us deserves that amount of respect.
Yeah, that also brings us to the topic of all the larger goals that we have planned for future. That brings us to the issue of funding, which is where all horses lead in a publication. So the model that we began this publication also depended upon redistribution of wealth, and we firmly believe that it is the duty of upper caste people to fund, or rather, if you put it, the duty of colonizers to fund work that is doing the work of decolonizing. And that is whenever, so even now when we had put out grants, a lot of people, it was surprising to see upper caste people applying to the grants, while it was made very clear that these are only open to SC, ST, OBC people, while a lot of people were just blatantly writing in their mails that I am a Brahmin, but I want to do this, I want to do that, and they feel guilty about it. But they want to do that by occupying the space that we are creating for our people. Our only message to such people who come from a place of a privilege, and also come from a place where they feel like they want to help, or anyone who wants to help, and if you come from a dominant caste, an oppressor caste, the first thing that you can do is to fund work that is being done by the people from the community. And I'm not saying just that you can fund Mavelinadu, but there are a lot of other organizations, publications which are run by people from the community, and where the money directly goes in the right sources. It doesn't, and also the fact that it is not at all a donation.
Yeah.
It is not at all a charity. It is literally the way that at least we see it, as that the money, the wealth, the history that was stolen from us is being merely asked to be given back.
Like reparations. Like it's not like we're begging, not begging, but it's definitely not charity. Like if you've stolen from us, then we just have the right to get it back, so that we can create culture and create work that is important. And we really think it's like I think that the work we're doing is important in like larger cultural history of the subcontinent.
And we also do believe in very fairly paying our grantees, and we are proud of the fact that we have funded work of almost 21 people, more than 25-30 people till this point, where I'm sure where some of the funds might have not been extremely large, but it was something that we could do. And we are also proud in saying that this funding has been in a way also done from currently we are in the process of working with our grantees of the second round for decriminalizing gender. Hopefully this process will we would be done with this process in the next 6 months, and we are going to start working on creating an anthology of all the grantees, of all the work, of all de-Brahmanizing gender grants till now, and publishing it in the form of a book. It will also be available for free access online, and in the form of a book which would be published in hopefully in multiple formats, where there could be a sort of a premium edition.
There's different levels of accessibility
for the book. More than that, after that we also intend of publishing individual authors. That is also something that we have in our pipeline, like just coming up with. We are working with some authors.
Besides just like publication and literature, what we also want to create is like a robust culture that sort of supports more works as well. Like we've discussed supporting works of performance artists, we've discussed like hosting events or creating platforms and creating spaces where people from the community can come and express themselves beyond just the published form, so whether that's in terms of music or performance, plays, or whether in terms of even an exhibition, because we have our publication is extremely visual heavy. We have many illustrations. We hope to work with many artists and illustrators from the community and visual artists. So we want to one day hopefully see all of it in one place and create like an exhibition, create a platform and curate a platform for other artists within the community to also show their work. So we're very enthusiastic about platforming and supporting expressions throughout within the community, because every single one of us has very unique experiences. The anti-caste experience and community in itself is not a homogeneous people. We come from different circumstances, different financial circumstances, regional, language, cultural, food, everything. So, and there are those many unique voices, there are those many unique stories, and those stories are all important for us to sort of tell and be proud of and assert, and so we can create a larger anti-caste culture that is strong, that exists beyond certain traditional forms. So that is the hope we have, and we genuinely keep the idea of a utopia in front of our eyes, irrespective of what is going on in the world. For us, that is important because that is our only chance at thriving and surviving.
So, and for that purpose, if you wish to fund our work, if you can visit our website, MavelinaduCollective.com, and you can see the work that we are doing, you can see what we are about, and you can help us continue this work for a longer period in time.
Yes.
You can get in touch with us on Instagram,
Twitter.
Twitter and Instagram, and we'll get back to you. So we hope to keep putting out as much work as we can in the coming future. Thank you.
Thank you.